think it's reasonable to say that Destiny 2's raids after the first 24 hours become kind of a joke. Something to only do for the pinnacle and higher stat rolls. In this video, I'm going to discuss two ways that raid difficulty could be adjustable, allowing players to choose their suffering. So technically there are three methods, with the easiest being just add a contest modifier mode, but I feel that doesn't really give longevity to the raid difficulties. Once you know the mechanics and have the current meta PvE weapons, contest mode just becomes the same raid every week, just a little harder. The two methods I propose are give the raid the Nightfall Ordeal Treatment or the old Nightfall Modifier Card. Now, not being a game developer and knowing nothing about how to develop a game, I can't say which one would be easier to implement or anything like that, but I personally like the second option of having the modifier card, but we'll get into that later. Now let's take a step back and look in depth a little bit at these two methods and how they would function. The Nightfall Ordeal has 4+1 difficulties as Adept, Hero, Legend, and Master, with the added Grandmaster later on. This method for variable difficulty would work as follows for the raid. After the first 24 hours, the difficulty menu would become available, with Hero being the default difficulty. This would be exactly what we have now, the same raid as contests, but no power level restriction. Now you're probably asking yourself, what about Adept difficulty? Well, I'm glad you asked. For Adept, I would remove all champions, making the raid easier for those that just want to experience the raid and not deal with champions or anything like that. This is just an option that I think would help maybe get a few more people into the raid overall. Moving back up, we have Legend. This would be in the middle of normal and contest mode, lowering your power level by 10 and turning off artifact levels. Legend would also add some modifiers to up the challenge a bit. Things like Blackout, Iron, Brawler, the Singes / Burns, because I think they should bring the Burns back, and these would rotate on a weekly basis. Master level raids would be contest mode with the 20 power level lower restriction, and would have the same modifier implementation as Legend. And then we have Grandmaster raids. These would still be contest mode with 20 power levels lower, but with three locked modifiers. So first one being a Singe or Burn modifier that would rotate weekly. And then you would have Iron and a new modifier that would just add more champions to the overall raid. Then it would have 3 to 5 modifiers that would rotate weekly. And this would include all available modifiers. So things like Blackout, even Extinguish, Attrition, just a wide variety of different modifiers to make it challenging. Some weeks would be more challenging than others, but it gives that flavor to it. And then maybe even adding a few new ones specific to the raid. If they're going to place raids into the DCV, then this really wouldn't matter too much, but if raids are going to stick around for at least a little bit, where we will end up with multiple raids active, then they could have a few special modifiers for the raids. Now that I've laid out how the difficulty tiers would work, let's talk about rewards. So for Adept, the rewards would be normal, like they are exactly right now, but we would make the chance for getting higher stat rolls smaller. So you'd have more of a chance of getting, maybe in the 55 to 60 range, not stuff that you really need. Hero would be exactly what we have right now, but add in a small chance for more upgrade materials. Legend would increase the chance for higher stat armor and ensure nothing drops below 60. Also, we would go ahead and further increase the upgrade material drop, and we would add in a higher chance for high stat exotic armor when they drop. Master would further increase the chance for high stat armor and ensure that nothing drops below 63 total stat. Upgraded materials would practically rain on you, and the chance of getting an exotic per run would be very high. And it would also have a very high chance of being good in its stat roll. For Grandmaster, being this would become the pinnacle PvE challenge, you would have a guaranteed exotic drop every run. If it's an armor, it would be guaranteed to be 65 plus on its stats. As all armor, would be at Grandmaster. So no armor would drop below 65, and you would essentially be drowned in upgrade materials so that you can, utilize the armor and stuff that you're getting. And then Adept weapons and Adept mods would basically completely replace normal weapon drops throughout the Grandmaster raid, as this, again, is the pinnacle PvP challenge if this was implemented. So with this system, you have many difficulty levels to test yourself against, with good rewards that I believe are adequate for each difficulty tier and respect the time and skill commitment that it would take to complete these tiers. For those that don't know or don't remember, Destiny 2 used to have what was called the Legendary Nightfall Challenge Cards that allowed you to pick what modifiers you wanted to take into the Nightfall, making it easier, normal, hard, or just straight painful. I want to take that system and kind of expand it just a bit for the raid. So for starters, it would have all available modifiers to choose from, with each of them having a point value. And then there would be at least 4 new modifiers, one being more champions, one being no champions. Then you'd have lower power 1 and lower power 2, with the lower power ones, one being minus 10 to your power, one being minus 20. So essentially contest mode light and then contest mode for lowering your power based off of the encounters. This could also open up the ability to have more of these tiers for lowering your power levels. So maybe you lower your power level by 5 or 10 or 15 or 20, maybe even 25, 30 if you want to really push it. All of these different modifiers would have different point values. And once you picked one, it would lock out the other ones. So if you picked no champions, you couldn't then select more champions. And if you picked, lower power level by 20, you couldn't pick any of the other lower power levels that way. Now, what are these points, you may be asking? So they are what get you to the different reward tiers. So this would work similar to how our stat tiers work, in the fact that, once you get your discipline or intellect to a new tier, you get the cooldown shortened. Well, in this case, once you get it to a new tier, you get more rewards. So the way that I see it is the rewards would be very similar to the previously mentioned reward levels, but you'd have kind of your 0 to 1 would be equivalent to your Adept rewards. If you're between 1 and 2, that would be hero level rewards. Between 2 and 3 would be legend rewards. 3 and 4 would be master, and 4 and 5 would be grandmaster. Again, these is equal to what I mentioned previously. All modifiers would have points. It may be half a point, could be a quarter of a point, could be a whole point, could be multiple points. And the only one, the no champions, would be a negative point value, as that would drastically reduce the difficulty of a raid. So that would have a negative point value that you would have to then make up the deficit in that regard. So the advantage of this system is that the players are given basically full control of how they want to make the raid as challenging as they want. And then they can also, if they know what tier, like, hey, this tier is a good time reward tier, though I would want all reward tiers to be worth their time. Maybe Grandmaster level just obviously take a longer, higher chance of failure, so it has a bigger time sink. Maybe people want to focus more on the Legend and Master. They can, run those a lot easier. They can put in the modifiers that they want to get to that tier, thus allowing them to have that flexibility. Then Bungie could add, as they had for the Nightfalls, they could add raid scoring and even have the TWAB give recognition to the top 3 scores for that week. So these two options solve, in my opinion, the issue with the raid just becoming kind of a simple, quote-unquote, simple thing after contest mode is over, and really puts the power of choice back into the player's hands, really giving the, what is supposed to be the pinnacle PvE experience a new breath of life where anyone can enjoy it at many different difficulties. Because right now, Nightfall Ordeal is really the pinnacle PvE. Yes, the raid is fantastic, and it is well done, and it is one of the best PvE experiences, but it's not really pinnacle besides the first 24 hours. This would make it that pinnacle PvE experience if one chooses to engage with the higher difficulties, whether it's, again, using the kind of the Ordeal Treatment or this Modifier Card. I personally do like the Modifier Card as it gives more player choice to picking and playing with the modifiers as they want. And it would allow Bungie to create more modifiers unique maybe to the raids just as a whole, not a specific raid. With all that said, let me know what you think about these options and ways to improve them, or things that maybe I missed in the comment section below. Thanks for coming and listening to me talk about this game. I really enjoy Destiny, and I hope that Bungie, after this, essentially this year of, I would call it growing pains, where they are implementing and changing and modifying a lot of things. I really hope that they can start to sort of really look at some of the end game and try to give that longevity to it. If this video made you think, please leave a like. And if you want, a sub is always appreciated. I'm Dr. Falala, and thanks for hanging out.